A curious conundrum for feminism. Many people often ask me, if men and women are the same, why is it that women aren't competing at the highest levels of chess? And I don't know, do they segregate gender in chess? That seems like that's what they do in a lot of places. But I'm told by people that they don't. However, I don't think that's true. I think they actually do segregate by gender. But the idea is, in games of the mind, right? We know that men are physically taller on average and stronger and all that on average than women. Thus, men tend to dominate over women in physical activities. The argument is that if they're equally as smart, why don't women dominate in, say, chess? And I think the reason is they actually do segregate by gender. But I could be wrong. I'm not a chess expert. But then we have this story from the Wall Street Journal Opinion. Sorry, feminists. Men are better at Scrabble. Nothing stops women from competing at the game's highest levels, but almost none of them do. And I'm going to say right now, there's a really obvious reason for that. I believe that it's not that men are smarter or better at mind games and strategy games than women. It's that men are more competitive and more driven to compete. I think it's fair to say that men are more competitive, thus, more guys are going to be competing, and less women are going to be concerned about entering competitive Scrabble. But this is actually really interesting, so we'll read through this a little bit. The 2018 World Scrabble Championship was held last month in London. The champion, 51-year-old Nigel Richards, played Groudhere, meaning sulky, for the winning 68 points. Wow. This was Mr. Richards' fourth world title in English Scrabble. He also took the French Scrabble title this year for the second time, even though he doesn't speak French. Wow. If Mr. Richards' dominance of competitive Scrabble is clear, there is a less noticed but more significant pattern in the game. Since the World Scrabble Championship began in 1991, all winners have been male. The North American Scrabble Championship has had one female winner. The North American, oh okay, but the world hasn't, in 1987. Since its founding in 1978, all 8 finalists in this year's French World Scrabble Championship were men. Competitive Scrabble constitutes a natural experiment for testing the feminist worldview. According to feminist dogma, males and females are identical in their aptitudes and interests. If men dominate certain data-based abstract fields like engineering, physics, and math, that imbalance must, by definition, be the result of sexism, whether a patriarchal culture that discourages girls from math or implicit bias in the hiring process. But there are no cultural expectations that discourage females from memorizing dictionaries, typical strategy of competitive Scrabble players. Often in a foreign language that the player doesn't speak, girls are as free as boys to lap up vocabulary, nor are there misogynist gatekeepers to keep females out of Scrabble play. The game, usually first learned at home, is open to all. According to Hasbro, 83% of recreational Scrabble players, 25 to 54, are female. And I think that is the big point that needs to be made. 83% of recreational Scrabble players are female. Why then does that not translate to competitive Scrabble? And I think that's why I said in the beginning, I think men are just going to be naturally more competitive. And even though there's probably there's women who are really good at it, they probably just don't care to compete. But if that is the case, that men and women can have equal skill and talent within Scrabble, and the reality is not enough women just feel like competing, you still see a difference between men and women. Whether or not you want to argue that men are more driven, so they develop more skills, that they're naturally more skilled, or that women just choose not to compete, you can see there is a natural difference between men and women, and potentially not a cultural one. But I will add, there is still a potential argument to be made that maybe society encourages men to be competitive. I am not of that opinion, but that's still a potential explanation. Let's read on. Championship Scrabble, however, rewards typically male obsessions, strategy, math, a passion for competition, and a drive to memorize facts. Mr. Richards' mother told The Guardian in 2015 that he related everything to numbers when he was growing up. Feminists will need to employ circular logic to conjure forth a discriminatory barrier in Scrabble. Males' excellence at a certain activity itself keeps females out. But that leaves unanswered the question of how males came to excel at Scrabble or any other abstract competitive activity in the first place. And I will also add, society, our culture typically believes that men are better at math and women are better at linguistics. I don't know if that's true, but that is a trope. If that is a trope, then it is women prefer to read, men prefer to watch videos. It's fair to say, in my opinion, that society actually encourages women to be better with vocabulary, to expand their lexicon. Unfortunately, the feminist explanation for sex disparities in science, technology, engineering, and math has spread to countless public and private institutions. The prestigious National Academy of Sciences released a 312-page report this summer, primarily blaming gender harassment for the lack of gender proportionality in STEM. Gender harassment, which the NSA defines as verbal and nonverbal behaviors that convey hostility, objectification, exclusion, or second-class status about members of one gender, is a relatively new concept deployed to compensate for researchers' failure to find much traditional harassment in STEM environments. The NAS report recommended additional gender discrimination bureaucracy in STEM workplaces, new state and federal laws, female-friendly evaluation structures, and explicit steps to increase female hiring. The National Science Foundation pours millions of taxpayer dollars into intersectionality and microaggression studies to smoke out invisible STEM sexism and to promote diversity in research labs. Academic deans and campus diversity bureaucrats pressure faculty hiring committees. Oh my God, that is wordy, but we get it. The point is, institutions far and wide are blaming society for the disparity. But when you have something like Scrabble, where 83% of the players are women, but they're not competing, something else is going on that's not skill-related. I want to take this moment to give an honorable mention to Lee Greenberg, because her take on it was women overwhelmingly leading the resistance to rising fascism in the US, men doing pretty good at Scrabble. Is that the best you could come up with to refute the argument that men who are overwhelmingly the minority of Scrabble players are somehow on top of the non-gender segregated championships? I think you missed the entire point. I also want to point out that this, overwhelmingly leading the resistance to rising fascism in the US, that's entirely made up. if your opposition to the story is to make up a non-fact, I'm sorry, Lee, I'm not trying to be mean, but like, I get it, it's kind of a joke, but you should probably argue against the point they're making instead of just saying you're fighting fascism, which you're probably not. Because I'm pretty sure, you know, I'm going to go there. Most of the people who died fighting fascism were dudes. I'd say actually like 99% of them, except you had the Soviet female sniper team, which were pretty badass. Pretty badass, I guess. So let's see what they have to say. Other natural experiments suggest this massive social engineering project is based on a fiction. Like competitive Scrabble, Wikipedia has no gatekeepers. Anyone can compose or edit an entry. Participation is largely anonymous. There are no centuries-old wiki traditions shoring up male wiki dominance. Yet only 13% of Wikipedia editors are female. According to the Wikimedia Foundation, even though no one would know the sex of a female editor to be able to discriminate against her, entries for typically female subjects are skimpy compared with typically male ones. The implication is unavoidable. Females aren't as obsessively driven as males to nail down facts, correct errors, and dominate a field. Let's go back to Lee's point and correct this tweet. Women overwhelmingly believing that they are the resistance to rising fascism, which actually doesn't exist, in the United States. Men dominating Wikipedia, which is one of the largest databases for human knowledge on the planet. How is that? Also, they're good at Scrabble. So, you know, why is everybody so upset? Fascism is not on the rise. Can I just say that before we move on? It's not on the rise. We have a constitution. There are limits to what the government can do. The whole border thing with separating families has existed forever. Yes, it was emboldened under Trump, of course, but telling people they can't come to the U.S. is not the same as taking citizens of your country and rounding them up. My word. Let's move on. Let's see what the final thought here is. Feminists have persuaded policymakers that only patriarchal inequity can explain the male dominance of Silicon Valley and of pure research. The archetypal male science geek, ignoring the demands of ordinary life so he can solve a physics problem or write code, is out of sight, out of mind. But the same maniacal pursuit of mastery that leads someone to spend every waking moment poring over a dictionary to prepare for a Scrabble tournament has also led to the computer revolution and to the West's conquest of disease and natural disaster. Diverting time and resources from actual STEM research into gender politics is reckless when China is becoming increasingly competitive with US in technology. It's time to face reality about differences between males and females. Let the chips fall where they may. Miss MacDonald, that's a crazy name, is a fellow at the Manhattan Institute and author of The Diversity Delusion: How Race and Gender Pandering Corrupt the University and Undermine Our Culture. My word, this opinion piece was written by a lady, Heather MacDonald, there's the big twist for everybody at the end. So for all the feminists who watched this saying, this is nonsense, right-wing propaganda, it's patriarchal nonsense, they're still going to claim it is, but now you've learned that this piece must be internalized misogyny, because there's no way a woman would actually believe that men are better at Scrabble. Look at this dude. He's very happy that he won. Look at that, Groudier? That's, oh, is this, yeah, that's his word. Congratulations. Look, you want to claim that you're fighting fascism, by all means. Calling it rising fascism is weird when George W. Bush started 2 wars, and countless people were killed, and Obama extrajudicially assassinated American citizens. And what makes you think any of this is new? It's been going on since before you were born. In fact, it's only gotten better. Fascism has probably been going away. But this is a really good example of, I'm not trying to be a dick, I'm sure Lee's a nice person, but in attempting to refute this opinion piece from a woman, she reduces she strawmans it to men are good at Scrabble, even though they clearly state men dominate Wikipedia, which contains the summation of human knowledge, for the most part I'm being hyperbolic, and that they're just fighting fascism. The worst part is, it's perceived fascism. Fascism that doesn't really exist. But the reality is, men are good at Scrabble. Men are predominantly the editors of Wikipedia. And you're fighting an imaginary foe. That tweet doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. Right? Now, it is a fact. It is a fact that the intelligence difference between men and women is entirely marginal. Completely. But it is also a fact that, at least according to current research, there is something called the greater male variability. It's called greater male variability, meaning there are more male geniuses, but also more male idiots. And there you have it. So one of the answers as to why any field at all is dominated by men is that there are more male geniuses. But it also means that we don't pay attention to the male morons. And there's a lot of them. Way more male morons than female morons. Okay? But because there's going to be more male geniuses, you're going to see men dominate the top of any competition for the most part. Anyway, that's about it for me. Thanks for hanging out. I'll have more videos up on the main channel tomorrow at 4 p.m. That's youtube.com/timcast, which is a different channel. Go check it out. I'll see you all then.